From the most trusted names in local news, KDPG Sunday Edition.
Good morning and welcome to the KDPG Sunday Edition. I'm Ken Rice. In the latest saga of the battle between UPMC and Highmark, Pennsylvania's Attorney General announced this past week that he's filing suit aiming to protect Highmark customers who use UPMC doctors and hospitals. As KDKA Money and Politics editor John Delano reports, Josh Shapiro wants UPMC to agree to continue to provide that coverage at affordable rates.
UPMC is violating the state's nonprofit public charities law that allows it to operate as a tax-exempt organization, says Attorney General Shapiro, who filed a 73-page complaint against UPMC.
UPMC must behave in a manner consistent with its charitable mission in all facets of its operation.
Shapiro asked both Highmark and UPMC to modify and extend a consent decree that expires June 30th, so Highmark insureds can continue to use UPMC doctors and facilities.
Highmark has agreed to those modifications. I'm also here today to announce that UPMC did not.
With that, Shapiro said filing a lawsuit against UPMC was his only recourse. UPMC and its UPMC Health Insurance and Highmark and its Allegheny Health Network are now competing for both insurance customers and patients.
They can basically put a wall up around their silo, shutting each other out, denying access to care, while driving up their own bottom line.
But if they do that, consumers lose, as one Highmark insured said about her UPMC cancer doctor.
You should be able to go wherever and see whatever doctors you want to and be treated no matter what insurance you have or what hospital it is.
Shapiro credited UPMC for its charitable contributions, but added,
Still, the benefit of the bargain here for Pennsylvanians only exists if UPMC offers its public charity status, not just some of the time, in some of the cases, but all of the time as the law requires.
UPMC says this is just an economic battle between two corporate giants, but Highmark CEO David Holmberg disagrees.
These aren't our companies. These aren't, we didn't put our equity in to build them. We're stewards of the people's money. These companies belong to the people of Pennsylvania.
John Delano, KDKA News.
This morning on the KDPG Sunday Edition, how this battle between UPMC and Highmark is affecting local patients. A little later in the program, we'll hear from a Highmark-insured patient who receives vital cancer care at UPMC's Hillman Cancer Center, and we'll meet the head of the Pittsburgh Business Group on Health. Right now, though, we welcome Allegheny County Controller Chelsea Wagner. She began an online petition campaign to urge state officials to find a solution to the pending split of UPMC and Highmark. She also created a forum for patients to share their personal stories about health care access. Sally Stapleton, Managing Director of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, joins me for our discussion. Sally, nice to have you and Controller Wagner. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So first, what was your reaction to the Attorney General's action yesterday? Or last week, I should say.
I really applaud him, and I think that that is perhaps the most critical step in compelling UPMC to do what it must do, which is really honor the real stakeholders here who are the residents of this region, likewise in Erie, the only two marketplaces where we're being treated as second-class citizens. And his complaint was very, very strong.
UPMC would tell you the market has shaken out over the past few years. There's many more. The average employee has many more choices now. Businesses are finding ways to offer UPMC or Highmark or plans that offer access to both. So they're sort of suggesting this isn't a crisis.
Well, I think their comments reflect alternate universe, because that's not what people here see in terms of cost, in terms of losing access, regardless of which of the insurance plans you have. But they're also, I believe, playing the abuser. It's this classic abusive relationship. So they've pushed us to this brink, and they're saying everything's okay, but I believe that the residents of this area were not born yesterday. We know better.
All right, let me read this straight from UPMC. We did invite UPMC to have a representative on the program today. They were unavailable, but they did supply a statement that I want to read for you now from UPMC. The 5-year transition, as provided by the consent decrees expiring June 30th of this year, has allowed businesses and consumers substantial time to prepare for the end of the UPMC-Highmark relationship in Western PA. During that period, the region's insurance marketplace transformed from one of the nation's most highly concentrated and least competitive to one of the most competitive and pro-consumer markets in the nation, with some of the lowest health plans available anywhere. Consumers have greatly benefited from the heightened competition. Nearly all businesses now offer alternative, affordable plans so their employees can choose insurance products that allow them full, unfettered, in-network access to the UPMC hospitals and physicians they desire. As for Medicare Advantage, a federally regulated program, seniors now have more options and enjoy the benefits increased competition provides in terms of low pricing and more expansive plan design. To the extent there remains any confusion, seniors with Medicare Advantage plans have another opportunity from January 1 through March 31st to clarify their options and switch their coverage so they have the in-network access to providers they prefer. So is UPMC correct?
No. It's hard. If this wasn't so serious, every single part of that statement
is wrong. Okay, well, let's just take this part.
Sure.
Nearly all businesses now offer alternative, affordable plans so that there is a way for people to get unfettered in-network access to.
This concept of choice is non-existent. So people have been deprived of their medical autonomy. So if they choose, which there isn't a choice. For many people, if you're in the workforce, you are limited to the plans that your employer provides. So with that, you can no longer then go to a provider at Allegheny Health Network who may have been your dermatologist and then see your oncologist, for example, at UPMC. So this is, as I said earlier, this is an alternate universe, and I believe everything in that statement treats the residents as if we were born yesterday.
So again, quoting UPMC, nearly all now offer alternative, affordable plans that give in-network access to you. You're saying flat out not true.
Well, what they have done in terms of really the predatory behavior and changing the marketplace, the part of that statement that has become a reality because of their predatory behavior is that they have pushed on Highmark insured people, so that where Highmark used to have 2/3 of the local market, they now have 1/3. So you've seen the rise of these other providers by another third. And you see how UPMC is really pushing all of those other insurance companies, but not Highmark. And all of this, though, we can't forget the most important point, that UPMC is a charity. This behavior is outrageous, I think, if we're just talking about any kind of entity, predatory, monopolistic behavior, but they are a charity, so under our laws, they must be held to an even higher standard.
Let's bring Sally.
You're looking at UPMC, which is talking about expanding and making itself worldwide known in so many factors, and it's hard pressed to think that they can do that without being funded accordingly. Talk a little bit about how they can do both successfully, because there's no doubt the quality care is very much a factor when people say UPMC.
Sure. Well, the problem, I believe, is when they're speaking to their status, which is certainly true in terms of the quality of the care, that is internationally known, that people are coming here from across the world to seek that care, yet it's our own residents on whose backs these hospitals have been built and subsidized who are being shuttered from these same institutions. I don't believe this should ever be an either-or proposition. They can do both. The Attorney General made some really good points in his press conference yesterday, including the outrageous salaries that you see for UPMC, particularly as part of its charitable status. So you can see many different areas in terms of the financial modeling that are not prioritizing the care of people locally. And I think most importantly in his action, he spoke to how the board would have to change to ensure that that type of governance does really value and respect the real stakeholders who are the individuals within this region.
But basically, whatever goes forward, these two large entities have to work together.
Right.
If one looks historically at that process, it has not been a successful union.
Correct.
Who can legislate working together?
And this is why I think the action by the Attorney General is so critically important, because it signified a real step forward for government intervening here. So previously you had this consent decree that is now about to expire, but you really haven't had all hands on deck by our government officials. And I believe that the Attorney General, yes, is the most important piece to this, but we also need legislative action, and there are efforts underway for that. But we also need local action. So until we really have our elected officials saying that this is part of our duty to ensure that our residents are not being preyed upon, because, as I frequently say, no one elected UPMC. We should have never gotten to this point, but the reality of it is, in politics, as we know, things often don't happen until the 11th hour, and so that's where we find ourselves.
All right, let's take a break. When the KDPG Sunday edition continues, we're going to be joined by Judy Hayes. She's from Crescent Township, a patient at UPMC Hillman Cancer Center, and a Highmark health insurance customer. Also, Jessica Brooks will join us. She heads the Pittsburgh Business Group on Health. We'll be right back.